Hi, I'm MJ Dougherty, author of Life Lessons from a Total Failure, and you're listening to my interview with Elaine Goodman on Gogoodman.com.au.
Your book is called Life Lessons from a Total Failure, and it's quite an intense book. I enjoyed it, but it's quite a lot of the parts are quite confronting. So why write a book? Why did you want to put the hardest period of your life on paper, which at a glance it includes embracing homosexuality, cancer, depression, weight gain, business success and failure, bankruptcy, the inconsistent life of a background actor, and a lot more for everyone to read and ultimately judge you or embrace you? Why did you want to put that out there?
Well, I think that there's three main reasons, and some of them are more heavy in weight than others. One was it was cathartic. It was great for me to put on paper and to kind of go through the timeline of what my crazy life had been and make sense of it. So that was one part. The second part would be, this was, my failures weren't quiet. In my hometown and where I live, everybody knew about it, and they knew it from what they saw and a lot from what they heard. And it was a good way for me to let them know what happened from the horse's mouth, to let them know my perspective and how my failures and the issues that went on during this time period, how they came across and how I saw it. So it was a good way to get my perspective out there. And for the people that I know and for people that were with me through it, they could read and really understand my point of view. But the major part, and the third biggest piece of it, is that when I started to kind of get myself together again and wrap my mind around what had happened, and I started opening up to people about it, I realized that these failures that I had, they didn't isolate me. They weren't singular. They connected me to people way more than I ever anticipated. So as I started sharing my craziness and the failures that I had, it made people feel better because they would say, oh, I understand that because this happened to me, or I did this, and I felt so awful, and I felt this or that. And I realized that there's so many people that have so much pain and shame and worry because things haven't gone exactly the way they wanted to in their life. And here I was who had this kind of, crazy story, and I went through all these failures, and if you step back and look at it from, a general audience, here's a guy who was homeless, had no money, bankrupt, and then he's on TV. Well, that's certainly a journey that people can kind of see that life doesn't always have to be the way you think it's going to be, and it could always get better. And I didn't want people thinking that they were alone and that their failures were singular and that they were bad, because I knew what that felt like. So that was the main drive behind writing this book.
So if this, I guess my mind is thinking, if this book gets into the wrong hands of maybe a producer in Hollywood and they see that you had a difficult past and that you are, maybe they could assume that you are still a little bit on edge, is this going to improve your life or help you get to know people, or are they going to be judging you before they've even met you?
Well, I think that in the book I'm very, honest about how I am and the issues that I have. And if they want to judge me, that's fine. But it has nothing to do with how I feel about myself or what's going to happen with me in my life, because I'm over that. And, if I don't think it's going to hurt my career at all, because all it is being honest. If I decided that I wanted to be in Hollywood and I wanted to try to be somebody, and I tried to hide the transgressions of my past, and it came up, that may have hurt me. Nothing I did was horrible that I would be like, I'm not a criminal. But the thing is, what I did by this was I kind of put my dirty laundry out there first. So there is nothing for anybody to use against me or hold against me, because I already told my story. So there's nothing for them to do.
In saying that, why did you start the book with one of your best mates fighting cancer and also finding love? Why was that point in your life a good starting point for the book?
All right, well, this wasn't an autobiography. I wasn't going to start, on a cold day in December, MJ Dougherty was born. I didn't want the book to be that way. I wanted it to really tell this story of this, particular time in my life, because even though I had, issues and failures and stuff before then, this was the pinnacle of where I had to learn and grow. And I decided to start there because at that point, after my, best friend had cancer, and it was so hard and it was so emotional, and then I met this, guy who turned out to be the love of my life. Like, I thought that a lot of the crazy of my life was done, and this was, the start of my stable adult real life. And I was so wrong. So, it kind of was a good place to start, because it just kind of shows that you never know what's going to happen, and you have to kind of always be on your toes and aware that, your life can change in an instant. And that's okay, because you just have to learn that that's how it is, and be prepared for it.
How do you prepare for that?
You prepare for it by being confident in who you are, in your actions and what you do, and knowing that you can get yourself out of anything. You can be okay, and that, life is what you make it. So, it's cliche to say, if you fall off the bike, get back on, or, all those sayings about pick yourself back up. But it's really how it is. That's how you prepare for it. You make sure that you're confident in who you are, you really believe in yourself, and you know that tomorrow's another day, fresh, no mistakes in it. Let's keep going.
Before we move on, can you give me a brief outline of the book in your own words? Because I don't think I'd be able to do it justice, because I haven't experienced it, obviously. So how do you describe the book if someone asks you about it?
I would say it's the story of someone who stresses, tries, fails, repeat. So it's just a guy who was living a life in cycles, not seeing the bigger picture, and then he finally woke up because he had no choice and had to really confront what he wanted, who he was, and start from there.
It's interesting that you can laugh about it now, because it can be quite an intense book in parts. How long have you been able to laugh about it?
Well, I don't want to give away too much of what's in the book, but I do talk about how I finally went to therapy. And even in therapy, when I went the first day, and I was really in the middle of just the emotion of how hard my life was and how upset I was at how I failed myself and my life and the people around me, as I told my therapist, I did it with a smile on my face. So I have this, I recognize in myself that I had, kind of this coping mechanism of humor and smiling and trying to be positive, but that wasn't the same as laughing at it, as you were saying. Now I laugh back at it, but I'm not laughing at what happened, because what happened was real. I'm laughing at how I reacted to it, because now I know better. I wouldn't have reacted how I did before. So now, it's kind of like you live, you learn. That's life. What are you going to do? And you just keep pushing forward.
An interesting concept you brought to the book was naming every chapter after a different TV show, with a lot of the titles coming from sitcoms that I grew up with. How important has TV, and in particular comedy, been to you throughout your life?
Well, as I say in the book, I grew up in between two highways and actually next to a sewer plant. So there wasn't a lot of neighborhood for me. And growing up the way I did, and having, knowing I was gay from such a small, age, I was very young, I always knew something was different. Even though I was extroverted in many ways, I really kept who I was on the inside to myself. And I lost myself to the world of TV. And it really shaped part of my personality. So a sitcom, and, especially these sitcoms that I grew up with, to me, that's like if you, ran into someone who was your next door neighbor who you used to play ball with when you were a kid. It's that kind of feeling. Like, it's a touchstone of comfort, of happiness and contentment from when I was young. So you get those good feelings. And I think everybody has
it's
that
nostalgia
when they see certain, shows from when they were kids, or, toys, or hear songs. It's that kind of thing. And for me, comedy was always what I wanted to watch, and it's still today. You'll not really see me watch a lot of things other than comedies, be it TV or movies, because I've had a bunch of stress in my life. I don't need to watch drama. I lived it. I want to watch something that makes me happy and takes me out of the craziness that that can be life. So comedy is the thing that I think really helps people, and the reason I love TV is I feel like it's a way for people to escape and to feel good, and it's just that quick, part of your day where you can remove yourself and let go, and I think that's so important.
Are you interested more in on-screen comedy, or do you also have an interest in what happens behind the scenes and in history through the legendary days of the 80s comedy scene in America? Do you have an interest in that at all, or it's just the TV shows?
No, I'm really interested in I'm interested in a lot of things, and anything historical I'm very much into. And when it comes to comedies, I really love learning about the old school comics, starting back to silent movies and how comedies evolved. And I used to love reading. There's a magazine called the Reader's Digest, and I used to love to pick up the Reader's Digest and read these articles or these parts of the book that they would have every month called Laughter the Best Medicine, or they'd be these just little snippets that people would send in of things that happened in their life. And I used to love that, that slice of life everyday comedy. I love that. And now living in LA, I could walk to the Comedy Store or the Laugh Factory or the Improv, and I go and watch these stand-up people, and I've done stand-up before and I really like it, and it's fascinating for me to see how everybody uses comedy to really let how they think about the world come out in a very positive, fun way. And I find that fascinating, interesting. And, you mentioned the comedy scene in the 80s, and it was, it established these huge celebrities that we think of today. They were all these people working the scene and working hard and getting their kind of perspective of life out there. And it's a pretty cool thing.
And the interesting thing that kind of struck me is I've been through different periods in my life that I've struggled with, and I've been to a psychologist and talked to him about it. And one thing that he pointed out was, I'm fascinated with comedy because I can relate to the struggles that almost every comedian experiences, whether it be through depression. I mean, a lot of them go through depression, and I've been through a little bit of that, not a great deal, just light depression where I just needed a bit of a pick-me-up. Is that something that you can relate to, that a lot of those comedians have struggled and have been through dark times? Maybe it's because they analyze the world so closely, and that's what gets them, or for any other reason. Maybe it is a chemical imbalance. But is that something you can relate to? Because that's something that I'm really interested in as well.
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely right. A lot of comedians, I think, they're kind of the things they go to as their comedy are usually things that they struggle with, or things that they see in the world that they can't comprehend. And then there's people, you use Robin Williams as an example, who to the world, he was one of the funniest men alive, but his life was so much darker than that. But he used comedy to put this, front on for the world. And I think, for me, my humor comes from myself. I go right to making fun of myself immediately, and people say, oh, that's, self-deprecating and you shouldn't do that. But it's what I know how to do. I can see the humor in myself. So when I, have done stand-up, or when I'm, in the zone and I have everybody laughing and stuff, I'm usually looking at the things that I do that are crazy, or my crazy life, or my weight issues or whatever, and I'm spinning them and letting them out in a funny, positive way. And by doing that, I'm making sense of it. And I think it's therapeutic.
Yeah, I figure even through school, like, if I didn't make fun of myself, then I'm just going to get annoyed if I get jokes thrown at me. So that kind of built my sense of humor up as well, and built up my wall that I'm always the first one to make fun of me, because if I don't, no one else will.
And, if you make fun of yourself first, and it's something that, and this, has to do with self-esteem issues and blah, 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 there's no right or wrong answer to this, but if you make fun of yourself first, it's not as fun for someone else to make fun of you.
Yeah,
it takes the power out of that. So, and for someone who grew up with weight issues and gay and had all these things in their head, it was so much easier for me to be the funny guy and just be funny and be larger than life, because, if someone's going to turn around and be like, oh, you're fat gay, but yeah, so what? I've already said that a million times. Calm down. You know what I mean? You turn it right around on them.
In the book, you mention your favorite TV show of all time is Friends, one of the great 90s sitcoms that I also grew up with. But you associate it with a failed suicide attempt. Is Friends a show you can still watch and enjoy, or do you now associate it with that low point in your life? Because I have a particular song that I associate with a tough moment in my life, and I can't listen to that song anymore. Is that something that you relate to with Friends, or do you still enjoy watching it?
Oh, no, I still watch Friends all the time. I quote it probably on a daily basis. It's still one of my favorite shows. Well, it is my favorite show of all time. I think that I don't, I could tell you there was a song that we played at my grandmother's funeral, and I can't even hear it. If it comes on, I turn it right off because it just makes me sick to my stomach and devastated. But I think, and this is for me personally, but, when you are at a point that you are acting out on thoughts and motions of suicide, you're so low that the thought of actually succeeding in suicide is a wonderful thought to you. It's not a horrible, sad thing. It's okay. It's going to be over. And when I think about that particular day and everything, I can hear the song and I could hear it in the background, but that doesn't make me sad. What makes me sad is the guy before the day I attempted suicide. That's what I feel sorry for. I feel sorry or looking at certain pictures and seeing myself because I realized the pain that I was in and how I really shouldn't have let it get to me that way. So I don't really associate Friends or anything from that day because that day wasn't, as crazy as it sounds, it wasn't a sad day for me. I thought I was done. And at that point, and that's the sickness of depression, at that point, nothing could have been better for me. And I think, just as a sidebar, I think suicide is such a horrible thing because no one talks about it. And it's very shameful in families if it happens. People don't want to talk about it because there's guilt and there's such pain and shame. But the time to help someone who's suicidal is not when they attempt suicide. It's way before then. Because when you get to that point, you're so far gone from rational thinking that you can sit on the couch, watch Friends, and go to sleep thinking like, all right, this is it. This is good. I'm done.
Can I ask what that song is from your grandmother's funeral that you can't listen to? I want to know if it's the same one as the one I can't. Probably isn't.
Well, that would be quite the coincidence, but it's actually "Wind Beneath My Wings" from Bette Midler. I can't even listen to it. I just hear the first bum bum bum, and I have to turn it right off.
Yeah,
makes me sick to my stomach.
Mine's Tina Turner's "Simply the Best."
Really?
Yeah.
That's very interesting because most people find that very energizing and uplifting.
That was the song that was played at a very close family friend's funeral, so I can't listen to it anymore.
It is amazing the power music has, isn't it?
Yeah, it's weird, but I would have thought, well, like you just explained, you would have thought TV could have that same impact as well, but you don't associate Friends with a tough time.
Nope.
You associate Friends with you actually surviving.
It was actually there for me again. At the work, it was always been there for me, and it made me feel good that day too. So I can't take that away from it. It has been a positive influence in my life, as crazy as that sounds. But when you have depression and you have mental health problems, I mean you're not in the best frame of mind, and that's apparent.
You talk a lot about being discriminated against as a gay teenager and a young man. When you're going through school and when you owned a bar in Scranton, which is in Pennsylvania, so that's a big that's most of the first half or 2/3 of the book. Is that discrimination present in Hollywood at all?
All right, so this is a tough question, especially as someone who actively works in Hollywood and wants to make sure I mind my P's and Q's.
Let's just say at the moment...
But I have to say...
Hold on. Let's just say, when we say in Hollywood, you are do they call them a background actor? So let's just give a bit of perspective of where you're coming from.
Okay, so I want to say this. In L.A., in California, you are free to be whoever you want. I forget that, I'm a minority or I'm something different than everybody else, because it's so commonplace here. It's wonderful. People are very accepting. But I have had experiences where I have been on sets and I'm waiting around, I'm just doing extra work, being a background, and I'm kind of, you're kind of huddled in a bunch of people. And the crew and sometimes other background people are very, very much dudes. These guys are setting up the sets and the lights and the electrical and all that stuff. And there's a lot of verbiage thrown around like, oh, what did you go home last night and suck some guy, or like, oh, you're such a fag, or yo fag, what are you doing? Or like, don't be so gay. And that kind of talk happens a lot, and I have felt very uncomfortable. However, on the flip side, no one has ever said anything or made me feel bad for who I am here. I think that it's a vernacular that certain people have where they think it's, kind of funny, or it's, it's putting someone down by referring to them as, gay or fag, or implying that they're doing stuff with other people of the same sex. And they just don't see that it could really make people uncomfortable and make, it really kind of worry somebody. So that does happen, but I'm sure that happens everywhere where a bunch of real, manly dude men are. So I don't think Hollywood's anywhere different than anywhere else. It's really just, that kind of thinking that it's okay to slam other people and put them down by calling them, gay, or referring to them in a homosexual way.
You put a lot of emphasis on Hollywood changing your life for the better, but I've also heard that Hollywood is like the boulevard of broken dreams, as mentioned by Green Day. Were you ever skeptical about putting that much faith in the Hollywood scene?
No, but my situation was different. I had nothing to lose. I had absolutely nothing to lose. So there was no reason for me not to try my hardest and put my faith in it. And I think, and I believe this wholeheartedly about everything in life, the more you commit to something, the harder you work, and the more positive you are about it, the better it's going to turn out for you. And I have found, and I tell people all the time who just move here or just starting out, I always say, be nice, listen to instructions, smile and nod, and keep your mouth shut, and you're going to be fine. That's all it takes.
Yeah, that's all it takes. That's it. Those 4 things.
It is. I know it sounds so simple, but you have a place where people are coming, they're gravitating towards this one area, and when they get there, it's like they feel like they have to say everything about everything they've ever done and how great they are, and they're singing and dancing. I'm not kidding. You're in a room of extras who are singing and dancing and reciting monologues and doing all this stuff all over the place. Well, the powers that be and the people that are running those productions are rolling their eyes, and they can't stand it. So then people get upset when things don't go their way, but they don't behave like normal people. You don't behave that way. So if you just, do what you're told, follow instructions, and, God willing, you have some talent mixed in there, people are going to remember you. They're going to treat you well, and you're going to be okay.
You suffered a lot from, I don't know if suffered is the right word, but you struggled a lot with weight gain and various mental issues. But the interesting thing is you got help on a budget in LA through a government-funded psychologist and a weight loss reality TV show. I'm not saying that's good or bad because I wouldn't know, but how much help is out there, especially in America, for people that may not have a lot of money to spend on themselves?
Okay, well, before I answer the question, I just want to say it was not a reality TV show. I wouldn't have done that. It was a documentary that was actually a very well thought out, very legit doctor and nutritionist certified documentary. That's why I did it. So I just want to say that. I was not on a reality TV show. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but this wasn't it. So it was a completely different thing. As far as what is there offered for people and, how can people get help who need it?
If they're on a tight budget like you were.
A lot. Right, on a budget? Okay, well, I was going to say I've traveled a lot around this world. And I know that the United States of America, we have some major issues. However, there is always help for people here. All you have to do is ask. There are so many programs to help people with anything that they're struggling with. You just have to ask and look for them. All I had to do was call and say, I have no money, but I really need help too. And everything was laid out in front of me. People sometimes will rather, complain that they can't get help and don't actually go through the work of trying to find something that'll help them, because if they find alternatives or solutions, then they have to deal with it, and they can't. So I have to say, we have this country which is filled with these people with lots of opinions and very different, personalities, but a common core value is helping people that need help. And there are so many places and organizations and just government services that are put in play for people to get help and be able to have better, fulfilling lives. So to anyone who's struggling with anything, sit on the internet and do your research. Call your local, government agencies. Just look for places around you, and you will find people, even if they're not the right place, that are going to want to help you, and they will get you to the right spot.
You're great. This is some. Can I say Karen seems like the character that every person wants to have in their life. She's like almost. I worded this in the question. She's almost like fictitiously fun, because she's like almost like a Phoebe and a Monica connected in the same kind of person. So your great friend Karen plays a huge part in this book, and you even talk about having a connection to her after her unfortunate death through a not a mind reader, what's the word I'm looking for?
A medium.
A medium.
A medium.
Can you tell me a bit more about her? Because as I mentioned, I want you to kind of pay a bit of a tribute to her, because she is a big part of the book, and she's kind of like that Phoebe and Monica mixed together, in that she's quirky and she's funny, but she's always there if you need it. She was always there if you needed advice or needed a little bit of help, and she always knew what to say.
Well, okay, a couple things to say. First of all, thank you for giving away the whole plot of my book, by the way.
That's not the whole
That's
plot of
okay.
your book.
Anyway.
That's one character, and she's a very important character. She should bring
We're
people
hitting all the major points. Anyway, I'm just teasing you. All right, so you really nailed it when you said Phoebe and Monica, because Phoebe and Monica are supposed to be the two most opposite characters, but Karen was literally the free spirit, granola, natural, hippie, like artsy person who was also OCD, a perfectionist, and a total control freak. So she was exactly those two things put together. And Karen is talked about so much in this book. You know, she wasn't my oldest friend by any means, and not, you know, she wasn't my only best friend. I'm lucky to have a handful of really best friends that I can call solid best friends. But she was included to the length that she was because not only did I spend the time post failure with her when I was recovering, but she was there. She understood that I was going to be crazy and I was going to talk about things in a loop and I was going to obsess about things, and she let me. And that was such an important thing, because a lot of times when people are going through stuff, friends, family, they talk about it a lot, and you get so sick of hearing it that you're just like, yeah, okay, I know, I get it. Let's move on. Can we talk about something else? That's the worst thing to do. And she didn't do that. She listened to me, and she supported me. And throughout the whole journey that I had, Karen was, I always said she was older than me. She was 10 years older than me. And she was kind of like one of my best friends, but also like another mother, because she didn't care if what she had to say was something I would get mad at or if something I wasn't going to like. She did and told me what she thought was right for me because she actually cared. And when you really care about someone, you do what they need that's best for them. You don't do what they want to hear. And that was a very important thing. And, you know, the two people in my life who really got me here today are, you know, my husband Pete, who is a saint. I mean, he's just a saint. And Karen, because Karen, you can't put everything on one person. And, you know, Pete was doing so much to make sure that I was surviving and just able to live. I couldn't dump all that extra stuff on him also because I cared so much about him and I didn't want to burden him anymore. So Karen was there, and it was such a gift. And then just when I thought my life was all together and I had finally gotten things under control, then she dies. And I realized that you're never going to have it all together. You're always going to slide. The first thing I did was gain weight. I gained all my weight back. How embarrassing. I went through this whole thing, and then I'm gaining all my weight back because I couldn't process the fact that this person who was so close to me, someone who was just this touchstone in my life, was gone. I still can't process it. I still can't understand. But what I do understand is that I can't allow that to disrupt my life and have me ruin my life. I can't check out. I can't let it derail me. If I slip, I slip. So what? I'm still going to work hard to make sure I'm the man I want to be, because by letting everything go and going back to where I was, all I'm going to be doing is hurting myself, and man, she would kick my butt. She would come right back here and kick my butt. So, you know, Karen's story, and let me tell you, Karen had a story that was better than most people's stories, but how it intertwined with mine was just showing that blood, you know, they say blood is thicker than water, but sometimes water is just what you need to sustain life. And she always said that we were family, you know, a friend family, and she was the one who I shared holidays with, and she was the one who would text me in the morning and say, I thought about you last night, and I just want to let you know I'm thinking about you. I hope you have a great day. And those little things were everything that I needed. And, you know, I hope that going forward, you know, in my life, when people are suffering, having issues, I really try to remember, like, be Karen, be a Karen. That's what you need to be. Because That's all anybody really needs is one person who really, really cares.
What do you do now? What keeps you happy and productive? A big thing that I got told by a psychologist when I was going through a short period of depression where I didn't want to get out of bed, I just wanted to stay in bed and watch Netflix, was get up and do something that you enjoy. So I started editing again, I started organising more interviews and things like that. What keeps you, and I'm assuming you might be kind of similar, so what keeps you happy and productive? What keeps you busy so that you don't fall back into that trance, if that's the right word?
Well, it's funny. Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I'm very similar to you that I would fall into this cycle of just watching TV and staying in my pajamas and just kind of vegging out at home. So what I really try to do is I actively think in the morning, okay, get up, take my shower, get dressed before I even have my coffee, right? Because I'm ready for my day. And as soon as I'm up and dressed and ready for my day, my next thought's going to be, I wonder if someone's around to go meet for coffee. Let me get outside. Because once I'm outside in the gorgeous Southern California weather with the palm trees and the sun shining, how can I be depressed? I can't. So I really try to make sure that I do the things that I know are going to keep me positive, focused, and energized. And for me, that's being outside, being in my beloved California, which I love more than life itself, and utilizing everything it has to offer, and being with people that I love, be it my friends, or sometimes I'll make a phone date with one of my cousins or my mom or whatever, and I'll go sit at the park to be outside. It's never good for me to stay home by myself for too long, because it's just not something that works well for me. I'll just start watching TV and I'll just sit there and I won't get stuff done, and then I'll feel bad that I didn't get stuff done, and it just cycles on top. So you just make sure you don't go down those roads, and you make sure you do things that are good for you. And for me, I always say I'm solar powered. I want to be outside, I want to be with people, and I want to, at this point in my life, I want to be enjoying every day of my life, because my life is pretty freaking great, and I need to remember that every day.
So what do you do? What does keep you busy? Are you solely an actor, behind the scene, or a background actor, or what else do you do? How much of your time does that take up?
First of all, no one aspires to be a background actor. I love doing background. It's great. It's like free education. You get to watch everything, you get to meet people, and most of the times that I've gotten, speaking roles, or I've gotten used in shots, it's because I was background. I was smiling, listening, not talking, and following directions. And they came over and were like, "Hey, you want to do something?" Oh, okay, sure. So I'm, not that I'm putting down background acting, because I love it, but I hope that my future involves me being on TV more, be it in an acting role or as myself. I'm developing me more, and it's doing really well in my world. I'm going to events and meeting people, and I do motivational speaking, and I talk to people about my experiences and kind of help them process things that are going on in their life. Yesterday I did a podcast, the Brett Davern Show, and he had two people call and talk about what's going on in their life, and then had me just tell them what I thought. And it's stuff like that has been amazing, that I never could have foreseen that. And that, along with writing this book and really working to make sure this book is something I'm proud of, and something that can really package and present who I really am to people, was a big thing for me. So acting kind of had to be put to the side for me to do these other things. But I also know that when I step on a set, it's the most fun I feel and the happiest I feel. So I really try to have these three things and weigh them as equally as I possibly can. I work on the book, and I do stuff about the book. I talk to people about my experiences and do the motivational talks, and then I try to get in front of a camera, whether it's just me being me, doing interviews, or, I would love to have like a talk show one day, or something like that, where I could be me. That's stuff I try to do. And then the fourth thing that I don't really consider to be part of my career because it's just my life, I sing. I'm singing all the time. You'd be so annoyed if you lived with me or if you're my friend because I'm whistling, humming, or singing at all times. It's just a part of who I am and what I do. And my husband will say, if I don't sing, if I'm not singing, he's like, what's wrong? Something's wrong. So I make sure I'm singing all the time, whether it's in my house or with friends or at a bar after I had a couple too many, or, up on the Sunset Strip somewhere where they're having an open mic, or at a studio with people who want me to harmonize with something with one of their new tracks. That, to me, is essential of who I am. So I make sure I do that, too. I try to make sure I keep those passions that are who I am active in my everyday life.
The one thing that isn't quite clear in the book is what's the time frame of the book and how long ago, so what's the time frame? So when does it start? Like what year and what year does it finish? What's that kind of time period?
It starts in 2007. I mean, if we're really talking about it, I met my husband in 2007, and that's when I was in Colorado taking care of my friend Nathan. That's 2006, 2007. But the book really opens 2009 when I'm already in my bar and I'm looking at the bar and I'm thinking about my past.
And yes, you did used to own a bar. You did used to own a bar, so that puts it into a bit of a perspective as well. That's a big chunk of the book, so I didn't give it all away. You did used to own a bar.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the whole first chapter talks about how I can't believe that I was 27 years old and I owned my own bar. And that's the whole beginning part is about how I own the bar and, all that stuff. But that was 2008, 2007, 2008, 2009. The whole downfall part, my major failure part, occurred from November of 2009 to when I was put in a car and sent to California, and that was June of 2010. And then everything else that I talk about after that is when I'm in California and pretty much ends around 2014. So it's, the last 5 years of my life, really, the last 5-6 years of my life. And though, I do have definitive dates in there, like I'll say like on this day, 2010, I closed my bar, or on this day, 2000, whatever, or so-and-so, something happened. But, I didn't put in dates in particular. I didn't want to make it too stretched around dates because I hope that in 10 years from now, some 22-year-old who's struggling can pick up this book and read it. And if it's too time locked, they may not be able to relate to it. They may just think, oh, this guy is in his 40s or this guy's in his 50s, so what does he know? How can he relate to me? So I really tried to just keep it more about this is my timeline and we're going forward. And I'm 27, I'm 28, now I'm 30, now I'm past 30, like that, because I didn't want it to alienate readers because of, a timeline or a generation.
Where and when can people buy the book or read the book? Does it come out next week or the week after?
Well, actually, it comes out next week in all the distribution areas. But we did a soft release on Amazon.com, and it's available on Amazon.com.au like last week. And I'm very proud to say within 24 hours, it went to number 1 on the Amazon Hot 100 New Release list in 3 genres, and then hit number 1 in 3 genres, and is now considered by Amazon a bona fide number 1 bestseller.
Wow, congratulations.
Which was overwhelming because thank you, this was a soft release. I have no idea how these people in places that I've never been and countries that I don't know anybody have read this book and are emailing me and sending me messages about how amazing it was and how much they appreciated it. But I am blown away, and I'm so excited. So right now in Australia, if you go to Amazon, you can purchase it now, and after next week, it'll be, you can get, and it's just paperback right now on Amazon, but you can get all the digital versions on iTunes and Barnes & Noble and, all the major outlets for books. It hit one for a minute, but that's all that matters. It hit number 1. And then, now if you, enter life lessons from a total failure in the entry field on Amazon, it comes up and it says it has my book, and then there's a orange banner next to it that says bestseller. And man, I am proud of that, because never in a million years did I think I would be an author, and in a trillion years never would I think that I'd be a best-selling author. So I'm very proud, and I've learned from my past that it's okay to be proud of your accomplishments, because if you do something and you work hard and you put your everything into it, then own it and be happy. And then I'm really, really happy.
Finally, where can people find you? If they read the book and they do want to know a little bit more and want to know how you're doing, where can people find you and get in touch?
Well, you could always go to mjdougherty.com, and that's mjdougherty.com. And from there, I have all the links to my social media. Twitter and Instagram is mj_Dougherty. Facebook is facebook.com/everythingmj. But they're all on my website, and you could also, there's a entry box that you could put your name and email in to be on our email list, and there's an email that if you want to send me a note, you can go ahead and send it to info@mjdougherty.com, and I get to see that. Some of the stuff gets filtered out from my assistant, but I get, the real things, and I love it. I've been getting some amazing testimonials and people reaching out to me about the book, and it means everything to me. So I encourage people, if they like it or they, just want to share their thoughts, please get in touch, mj@mjdougherty.com. Be happy to read what you think. And, as we go forward, I'm working on some new stuff. I'm going to be doing some YouTube videos and doing some podcasts and doing a lot of stuff like that. So there's a lot coming, and I'm very excited and very honored and touched that people are getting behind me, because, there was a time in my life that I really thought I would never be okay again, that I really screwed up, and that was it. I never could have seen what today was going to be like, and I'm so happy and so thankful and grateful for who I am today, what I have, and where my life is and where it's going.
MJ, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Great.
Thank you for doing
All right.
the interview.
Thanks so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. It was great talking to you, and it was great fun.